talked about fear, phobia. Phobio is a good fear. Phobos, the Greek word phobos is fear. The Bible says we should fear nothing but God. Phobia. Phobio is a reverential fear of awe. We are in awe of God, in a reverential fear. Phobos is a phobias that we have and fears that we have, okay? So we're talking about dealing with fears. Last week we saw that the third servant, because of fear. Now we talk about consequences of fear now and strongholds. That's what we're dealing with. And a lot of you are probably dealing with that. Remember what he did with his money last week? He dug it up in a hole. And the Lord used some adjectives for him. Wicked, lazy servant. But we left out Sunday celebrating because God is a God of another chance. And that you dug that money, the master's not back yet. Remember we left off right there? And he said you can go and what? Dig it up. And start putting the master's money to good use. Those who are fearing money. We dealt with that last week. Had your money in the home. But today, we're going to deal with another common fear. Not just with our finances, but we're dealing with the fear of inadequacy. The fear of inadequacy. Not enough. Not good enough. Not having the qualities or the abilities necessary to do something or to cope with life. And some of us as Christians, if not all of us, at one point, and maybe some of us are still struggling with it from time to time. And I know I do from time to time. I told y'all before, you ain't got no perfect pastor. And that's liberating to me that I ain't got to pretend I'm perfect. Amen? Y'all didn't say amen to that. Y'all was like, huh? I ain't perfect. But most of us have a deep, more seated sense of inadequacy. And I want you to think about, what do you feel inadequate in your life? Maybe it's because your physical looks. You don't think you look good enough, that this model that the world has said, 36, 24, 36, what a winning hand, because she's a brick. Maybe you 55, 54, 63. You still beautiful. 36, 24, 36 ain't no more fearfully and wonderfully made than you. God made us all in his image. I don't take my shirt off at the beach. I have one of those shirts on to just show you. But you ain't no fearfully, wonderfully made because you walking around looking like Hulk. But some of us have an inadequacy. And in particular, our sisters. In a society that puts too much emphasis on physical makeup. We put our sisters in that bondage. Hair got to look a certain way. Body got to be shaped a certain way. Shoot. Make them feel inadequate. Shoot, I'm at the house. Terry said, go to the store. I don't care what I got on. I just get up and go. She, I got to go to the store. She spent an hour, like a whole lot of us, getting ready to go to the store. Because the world judges women differently. Maybe looks ain't your inadequacy. Maybe it's your education. Maybe it's your past. I don't know. I may not hit you today, but you inadequate about something. Maybe it's the way you talk. Maybe you have a speech impediment. Maybe you got the George Jefferson going on. And your barber's out of town. And you got to go to church. And you're like, what? The choir ain't looking at that bald spot in the back. We need some synonyms real quick. incompetent, inability, deficiencies, lack. Next 4 weeks, I'm going to be dealing with inadequacies. And how it makes you run the different strongholds in fear. Because I'm telling you what I know. I grew up in an era when black was no good. And I was black and nappy-headed. And I'm not trying to entertain you. I'm telling you the truth. So I felt inadequate. So if it was a sister that I thought was good, I'm like, no, I can't step to her. She wants a yellow-skinned, curly, Michael Jackson-looking kind of brother. Because I'm inadequate. All of us have dealt with something. Come on. Maybe it's your lips, maybe it's your hair, maybe it's your weight, your education, your background. Maybe the fact that you're single. Maybe the fact that you got 3 kids by 3 different daddies. So therefore you feel shame about that. And again, I'm just trying to get everybody to understand what the church is made of. I got to preach. Stop, Brooks. Stop. We got to stop acting like all of us are perfect in here. Stop it. Stop it. We come through this door hurting with inadequacies of the salary that you make, the house you live in. Let me introduce you for the next 4 weeks to a brother named Gideon. And I'm going to show you the fears. We're going to deal with Gideon. And I'm going to see how much Gideon is in you. And see the consequences of letting fear and inadequacies, how it messes up your whole life. And I'm going to be completely transparent along this thing about some inadequacies I have. And I'm exposing myself because I want you to know you can expose yourself too. I dealt with being black a long time in high school. Don't get it twisted. I'm black and I'm proud now, man. Matter of fact, I wish I was blacker than what I was. Blacker the black, black, y'all blacker the black. Hey, don't walk up to me talking about it's okay to be black. I'm like, I know it is now. Shoot, I'm talking about a young John Brooks. I'm old. I'm 79 years old now. Pastor years. Y'all done put 40 years on me. Stop. Yes, y'all have. I'm 79 in pastor years. Real quick, and I'm going to preach. Real quick. I got to stop saying that because sometimes somebody walked into the grocery store and said, Tony girl, what? Ain't you 7? I said, you said it at your church. I said, oh, baby, I was playing. We were saying, what you doing because you 70-something? I said, I got to stop that lie. I'm 71. Let's deal with Gideon. Let's deal with inadequacy. Now, I want you to get your inadequacy, whatever inadequacy you're dealing with right now. Take it with me for the next 4 weeks, and you're Gideon. Let me introduce you to Gideon. Gideon 6:1, real quick. The Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord. The Israelites did evil in the sight of the Lord. Let's deal with a part of that verse. That's right. I'm introducing you to Gideon, but I'm starting off with the Israelites. And you may be saying, how does Gideon's story have to deal with Israelites? You said you introduced me to Gideon. What's it got to do with the Israelites? Listen to me. Gideon is tied to the Israelites. Just like you and I. Our story don't begin with just us. You are the product or you are affected by those around you and some people you don't even know. Dealing with inadequacies now. I'm introducing you to Gideon, but I'm trying to tell you Gideon's story don't begin with Gideon. Just like your story don't begin with you. We sing that song, You Don't Know My Story. I may not know your story, but I know your story don't begin with you. You got a mama, you got a daddy, you got a cousin, you got a nation, you got a school. You have something around you that has affected who you are. You hear what I'm saying? And what I'm trying to say is that, listen to me, baby, it ain't about you. Your story don't begin with you, which means you need each other. So don't walk around here talking about, I don't need nobody else. I don't like that song. I don't like it, and I don't want us to ever sing it. As long as I got King Jesus, as long as I got Jesus, I don't need nobody else. Yes, you do. You need me to stop at the red light while you're going through. Stop it. Stop it. When you're hurting, you need somebody, a shoulder to cry on. Stop it. When you go to McDonald's, you need somebody to fix you a burger. Stop. The way God has created us. I think the songwriter got it right when he says, I need you. You need me. We're all a part of God's body. Stand with me. Agree with me. We all a part because my story begins with you and your story begins with me. So if you understand Gideon, understand his story don't begin with himself. And look how his story begins. Israelites doing evil. Israelites doing evil. Now, watch this. Notice this. Notice this. The Israelites did evils in the sight of the Lord. Wow. And for 7 years, the Lord gave them into the hands of the Midianites. But if you do, we'll do this at Bible study on Wednesday. I'll be here. I've been gone out of town for the last 2 weeks, but I'm back at this Wednesday. We're going to be dealing with it. Notice when the evil came. If you understand and do social reconstruction of the text, you got to understand the evil just didn't occur then. Watch me now. The evil occurred after 40 years of prosperity for the Israelites. 40 years of prosperity and complacency. 40 years of prosperity that God was blessing the Israelites. Then after 40 years of prosperity, they did evil. And if you're not careful, you got to be careful. You got to be careful now, because evil tends to follow prosperity. Because prosperity has a way of luring you into this false sense that you all right. And when you all right, sometimes the prayer life ain't what it should be. Talk to me sometime. Talk to me. When your weight is down and your blood pressure's down and your cholesterol's down, come on. And your hair's looking good and your family's doing right and you getting a raise and you ain't, come on now, you calling the shots. Your children are getting A's in school. Everything is kuda matata. Your prayer life, your work for the Lord tends to slip. Prosperity can lure you into this sense of complacency. And that's what it did to the Israelites. They were complacent. And if you're complacent, I'm not saying all prosperity, but I'm saying a lot of prosperity can lead to evil. So put that scripture back up there. It's just the teacher in me. Understand textually, the Israelites did evil in the Lord after 40 years of prosperity, after God blessing them, giving them jobs they didn't know, having kids when they shouldn't have been able to have kids, giving them jobs they don't understand, keeping them, protecting them, getting them out of wrecks that they should have been dead. I mean, you name it over and over. God has done everything for them. Then they begin to do evil. And look at this. This is a message of theology. And for 7 years, God gave them to the hands of the Midianites. And the Hebrew word really translated means delivered. The English translation here is gave them. But really, if you look at the Hebrew word, it really comes from a word which means God delivered, which means God said, oh, so you think you don't need me? Let me wrap you up in a nice bow. Let me put a bow on it and say, Satan, you've been trying to get this here. Here she is. You can have her. And a lot of you messed up. Why would God do that? He do that because you done got complacent. All storms are not from the devil. So don't be saying, oh, I'm getting laid off. It could be because you got complacent. It could be because you're too dependent on that job. So they did evil, and God handed them, delivered. I know you ain't going to shout for that, but I don't want God to deliver me from anything. And you say, God will not do evil. That ain't God doing evil. That's God doing good. Everything good to you ain't good for you. And everything good for you ain't good to you. That's what Ruby Jean would tell me. I'm like, I don't want that. She said, I don't care what you don't like. That ain't good to me, mama. She said, everything good to you, boy, ain't good for you. Take this castor oil. I wish I was, boy, she better be glad it wasn't like it was. But back in the 70s and the 80s, I'd have called that hotline number on her. Kids now, they got that hotline number. Is your mama making you go to school? Yes. I don't want to go to school. Come arrest her. Crazy. The oppression of the Midianites got so bad, and their power forced the Israelites to go hide in caves. Verses 2 to verses 10, we'll deal with that on Wednesday. The Midianites were hiding in caves because the Israelites gave them over to the Midianites, and the Midianites were killing them. Look at verse 2. Look at verse 2. Look at verse 2. Boy, this will make you shout. Because of the power of the Midians were so oppressive, the Israelites are God's chosen people, prepared shelter for themselves in mountain clefts, caves, and what? Say it again. What did they do? They ran where? To the wrong stronghold. You see? Y'all get it? They ran to the wrong stronghold. They ran to a cave where they thought they could be safe. Like when you have trouble, you run to marijuana, you run to drugs, you run to being evil, you run to giving up, you run to whatever, you run to abusiveness, whatever, because when oppression happens to you, and when hard times happen, you run to a cave, you want to be safe. They ran to a negative stronghold to be safe. But watch this. This is shouting material after this, my brother. Verse 3 will tell you, look at verse 3. When they ran to this negative stronghold, when we ran to a negative stronghold, whenever the Israelites had planted their crops, the Midianites, the Amalekites, and other people invaded the countries. Negative strongholds cannot protect you. Can't. They run to the wrong place for shelter. Think about it. How many times you've been messed up and you run to something that don't do nothing for you? What's your stronghold? But they run in these caves, but these people still caught them. Miguel, they caught them. And when they planted crops, they took their crops from them. Took the kids into slavery. Bullied them. And they thinking they safe. Bad times. And a whole lot of us maybe today are experiencing bad times because you have become complacent. Because you're doing evil in the sight of the Lord. Look at verse 6. The Midianites so impoverished the Israelites, hallelujah, that they did what? Come on now. Being broke make you pray, don't it? Come on, talk to me. Getting sick make you pray, don't it? Doctor say, I see something on you. Oh, Jesus, in your name I come. I know you got all power, God. And I need you. It's me, oh Lord, standing in the hot. Come on, God. Come on now. And I'm trying to tell you most of your theology, sometimes hard times. But here's the shouting material. If you really want to shout this morning, this is your chance now. Watch this, Angie Fowler. Here's your shouting material. Where were they when they cried out to the Lord? They were in the wrong place. They were in the negative stronghold. They were in caves, not in temples. They was in a cave where they wasn't supposed to be. They ran to a place where they thought they could get comfort, but they didn't. Let me make it plain because you having trouble understanding. They were at a party getting high. And the drugs wasn't doing nothing. And the alcohol, the Hennessy wasn't hitting it. And they looked around the room and they say, I'm all jacked up. I ain't got no house. I ain't got a window or a pot. And in the midst of all drugs around them and in the cesspool, they got on their knees and said, Lord, in a drug house, living in sin, shocking. I'm glad that God can hear you from anywhere. Talk to me, somebody. Talk to me, somebody. You ain't got to be in church for God to hear you. Talk to me, somebody. I ain't going to ask you, but where were you when you cried out to the Lord? Yes. Yes. Some of us was in jail. Some of us standing before a judge. Lord have mercy. Touch the judge. Come on, talk to me, somebody. I ain't here to make fun of you. I'm here to tell you we serve a God that don't care where you are, don't care what you've done. He'll hear your cry from anywhere. So don't you let nobody tell you can't count to God. There's nowhere you can be, nothing you can't be doing. Ask Peter. He was drowning. And he said, Lord, save me. I know I took my eyes off you, Lord, but I know you got the power. Save me, Lord, save me. Won't he do it? Anybody know that the Lord can save you? Oh, that's another sermon, but some of us, we ought to be honest with each other and say what God saved you out of. Church ain't ready for that. We want you to march down the aisle on Sunday and say, I come to Jesus. That's one way to come. Don't make no mistake about it. That's one way to come. They were so impoverished. They in them caves. Things are hard. Put that verse back up there. Put verse 6 right there. And they didn't, I'm sorry, I got to preach this. I'm getting excited. Stephen Garrett, I'm getting so excited. They didn't just pray, Lord, it's me now. I'm in a conundrum. The verbiage in the Hebrew language, they cried out the Lord, which means snot was coming out. Makeup, wig on halfway. Breath stink. Yes. Yeah. I bet you don't stop and get yourself together when you hurting. God can hear you wherever stronghold you run to. That's good news. Look what happened. Look at verse 7. When the Israel cried out to the Lord because of Midian, that's why they cried out. I'm getting to Gideon. Look at verse 8. How many know God will send help? I'm trying not to cry. But I'm trying to tell you, when you down and out, and even if you made a mistake, even if you ain't doing right, I'm glad. I'm glad God ain't like some of us. Some of us, when you get in trouble, before they get you out of jail, they'll say, now what you doing here? You didn't have no business doing here. No. God did not do that. Watch this. Watch this, Gwen. God didn't send an angel. Understand the text. He didn't send an angel. No. Let's dig a little deeper. God came himself. I'm going to look at the text for you now. Watch this. The prophet said this. This is what the Lord, the God Israel says. The prophet came and told them what they did. I brought you up out of Egypt. out of the land of slavery. Verse 7, verse 8, verse 9, verse 9. I rescued you from the hand of Egyptians. I delivered you from the hand of your oppressors. I drove you before you and gave. I drove them out before you and gave you their land. Verse 10. I said to you, I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites, in whose land you live. But you would not. That's what prophet said. God sent a prophet to tell you that. Look at verse 11. After the angel of the Lord reminded them while they were there. Watch this back. God himself showed up. I know you said, but wait a minute. Jesus didn't show up until Luke 4, Luke 2. And lo, there were shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over the flock by night. And the angel of the Lord appeared to them. They were so afraid. And they said, be not afraid, for we bring you good joy, tidings of great joy. Today in the city of David, a Savior is born. This shall be a sign to you that you find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothing, lying in a manger. Most of us believe that was the first time that God ever came to the earth in flesh. It was not. That was the first time he came down as the incarnated Christ. That was the first time he came to save us. But God himself came what you call a theophany. There is a word called a theophany. We're going to learn that word theophany. It is a visible manifestation of God himself. And you see it in the Old Testament, what you call theophanies, where God will show up himself. It's as if God is saying, for this one, I'm going. It's called a theophany. So you said the angel of the Lord, if you translate that, if you do some digging, if you do some research and some exegesis on that text, that's God. The angel of the Lord, Lord, capital Lord. Not a representative, not angelos in the Old Testament, a messenger of God. No. The prophet came before and said that, but this is God himself. This is God himself. This is God himself. And look what he says. He came, sat down under an oak tree of Ophrah that belonged to Joshua the Abiezrite, where he said, where his son Gideon was threshing wine in a wine press to keep it from the Midianites. It's a whole lot. Let's unpack that. God found Gideon hiding. Where'd he find you? The oppression of Gideon's people was so bad, Gideon felt the pressure. I told you we all tied together. Gideon was hiding. Watch me. Let me unpack this. Give me a minute now. God himself, this is theophany. We're going to deal with that Wednesday. God, it was God also who showed up to Abraham when he told Sarah that she's going to have a child. That was God. That was God who, in theophany, who showed up. Ain't you glad that God shows up? I'm so glad. God showed up. So this is God. God shows up in the manifestation of a human being, of an angel. He shows up. And why he had to show up at the manifestation, Terry, now I'll tell you why. Because if he shows his Shekinah glory, we can't deal with it. As Peter, James, and John in the Mount Transfiguration, he gave them just a glimpse, and they lost their mind. That's why I love that song, Oh, I Want to See Him. So God shows up, and look what he finds. Our subject today, Gideon, for the first time is introduced. And what is Gideon doing? What is he doing? What is he doing? Hiding. Hiding in the cave. Hiding in the cave. And what is he doing in the cave? Verse 12. No, let's go back to verse 11. His son Gideon was threshing wheat in a wine press. That means nothing to you. But he's threshing wheat in a wine press. Sister Love, he's threshing wheat in a wine press. Rose, he's threshing wheat in a wine press. Well, we could get with you if you told us what threshing wheat was and what a wine press was. Ain't nothing like anticipation. Keep you up. He's threshing wheat in a wine press. Threshing wheat was a trade that they did in agriculture in those days. And it was never, ever done. Matter of fact, it can't even be productive in a wine press. Let me tell you why. Because threshing wheat is when they would take the wheat, hit it out, somewhere from the country, and you would have to be on a high place. You would have to go to a high mountain or high hill, and you would throw it up. And the wind would blow away the chaff, and the wheat would fall down, but you could make bread. It could not be effective in a cave where you would take grapes to stump grapes because you didn't want the wind blowing away your wine. But he was so scared, Ma, that his crazy self is in a cave. And he couldn't separate the wheat from the chaff. The chaff was no good. You could only get the wheat. But he in there all day, he just... Why? Because he's scared to go to the high places. Don't laugh, because some of y'all are living in a cave, got potential to be on a mountain, but you in a scared place. No, ain't nobody gonna hear you singing in your room when ain't nobody there, because you're scared to join the choir, because your voice might not sound like. He is so scared. He is so terrified that he's expecting God to do something while he's hiding. No, you didn't get with me, so let me again. Some of you are sitting on testimonies. Some of you so scared. You got talents. You got testimonies. You got skills. You got resources. But something that happened in your life, you scared to open up your mouth. You scared to go to a place of production. So therefore you're hiding. And you're expecting God to bless you in a cave. And God is saying that can only be productive if you go to the high places and tell your story. If you use your gifts. If you use your gifts and you say, God, no, I'm scared. Hey! God finds us threshing wheat in a wine press. Look what happens, Misha. Verse 12. Listen to what God says. Don't you cry, Brooks. The angel of the Lord, that's God. He appeared to Gideon. Look at what he said. I'm with you. I'm with you. I know you selling dope, but I'm still with you. You trying to sell dope because you got bills to pay. You threshing wheat in a wine press. You trying to get productions because you scared, because you don't have the skill set, or because you got warrants for your arrest. You scared that God can't bring you through it. So therefore, you take the low road. I'm trying to be practical. But look what God says. I'm with you. Notice he didn't say I'm with what you're doing. No, don't get that twisted. See, church folk, we have problems disconnecting what people do and who they are and what they do. But I'm glad God divides the two. He didn't say, hey, Gideon, I think what you're doing is smart. He said, no, I can look beyond what you're doing. But he said, I want you to know something. Why you? He said, listen, I'm with you. You missed it. This ain't no angel. This is God. It's God. And I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm going to say it again. I'm glad, Tom. I'm glad, Ann, that he didn't come to condemn. Some of us, the first thing we would have said, Mississippi, was, what's your dumb self trying to thresh wheat in a wine press? You about the dumbest that they come. Look at you with your messed up self. You call yourself a preacher, and you sitting here in the bar getting drunk. You call yourself a woman of God, you shacking. They dealing with fear. Fear of something. So they try to be productive in places where God says you can't be productive. And because of fear, they hoping for the impossible. Gideon is scared of the Midianites. They killing folk. And God says, I'm with you. First of all, he reminds him. He encourages him. I'm with you. That's shouting material. And look what he said after that. Stop it, Antoine. He didn't call him a drug dealer. He didn't call him a deadbeat daddy. He didn't call him a loser. He didn't call him all afraid, scared. He didn't call him a loose woman. Whatever your sins you're doing, he didn't call him that. He says, mighty warrior. Mate, what you doing calling somebody doing something they ain't supposed to do? You say they mighty warrior. He's reminding them of who you are. And I think we get a lot of our children and each other if we remind them of who they are and not what they're doing. Mighty warrior. Mighty warrior. And here he is, Lee. Here he is, Lee. He down in the wine press, scared. And God said, you a mighty warrior. Mighty warrior. And I say to you, I know you ain't doing what you're supposed to because you're afraid. You're afraid of your past. You're afraid of something. You're afraid you could never get a man. You're afraid that you'll never get, whatever your fear is. Man, you're afraid of whatever you're afraid of. Your past, your inabilities, your looks. But I'm trying to tell you, and so therefore you end up doing stuff you ain't supposed to do to try to get something out of fear. That's why he's in the cave. He was supposed to be producing wheat. That was his trade. He was good at it. But he says, hey, mighty warrior, I'm with you. Don't you cry, Brooks. And then after all of this, watch this, Chucky. Watch this, Trina. Verse 13. This is fear. Consequences of fear. Let me get out of here. Gideon is polite. Pardon me, Lord. Pardon me, my Lord. But if the Lord is with us, why is all this happening to me? How come I can't never get ahead? How come it's always trouble? Why do I have cancer? Why come I'm the first one to get laid off? Why am I on the first side? Why bad things always happen to me? Listen to me. If inevitably leads to why. When you start saying if to God, then inevitably you're going to say why. Lord, if you with me, then why this happened? If you're with me, then how come I can't be this? After the Lord had already told the brother, but that's fear. That is fear. And some of you are living in fear, and God is saying you're a mighty warrior. And that ain't good enough for Gideon. Miguel, he says, God, I know you say that I am, but if I'm all that, and if you're with me, then please tell me how come I'm always broke? Why is my mama sick? Why is my kid always in trouble? always getting laid off? Why am I always lonely? Why stuff always happen to me? Fear leads to questioning God. And look at 14. Look what God says. Sassy, Sergeant Johnson, look what he says, Sassy. He don't even address that foolishness. God, I ain't got nothing to prove to you. I ain't got to explain nothing. I'm God. Gideon, go. Watch this. In the strength that you have to save Israel out of the Midian's hand. Watch this, watch this. Liz Blair, watch this. This is shouting material. It's a whole lot of shout material today. I just told you, I'm in a cave threshing wheat in a wine press. I'm scared. You say you with me. You say I'm a mighty warrior. I'm asking you, since you want me out of this cave, why all this happened? I done seen it happen to my children, my family, my marriage, my life, my money. I done seen it happen. And God just says, get up and go in the strength that you have and save Israel. Am I not sending you? What he's saying is, listen, I know how jacked up you are. I know how scared you are. But watch this. I ask you to do with your scared self is to do everything you can do. Go in your strength and watch me save Israel. I'm going to use your inadequacies to do the strength. You are going to see me work through your inadequacies. That's what he is saying. You want more. He said you don't have to make a whole lot of money. Go in the strength that you have and watch what I do with your little check. Go with your sick body and watch what I do with your sick body. Go with your limited education and watch what I do through you, through your limited education. Go with your speech impediment and watch what I do through your speech. All I want you to do is do everything you can do. And everybody's going to have to see that it ain't you. But I'm going to use your inadequacies. I'm going to use what you have. I'm going to use what you got. And I'm going to save Israel through you. I'm going to show you I've given you enough. What I'm showing you is that you are not inadequate when I am with you. It ain't other stuff that you need. Use what you have. What did he tell Moses? What you got in your hand. Use what I've. Am I not sending you? Fear will have you have amnesia. Watch this, though. I wish I could leave here. God just said, all God has asked us to do, Mother Edwina Byers, go in your strength. Whatever you have. But God, I don't have enough. He said, stop asking for more. Whatever you have, just go in your strength. And you're going to save Israel. I wish I could make that clear, Mac. We always think we're inadequate. God says, no. Whatever you got, just give it. And watch me work to you. Watch me work to you. And look at verse 15. Real quick. There go that part of me again. There go that part of me again. And some of you are like that. No matter what I say today, you're going to still leave here feeling inadequate. God does say, it's God himself. God telling him to go. God even remind him, am I not sending you? Duh. I'm sending you. He says, that's good. But watch this. This is the inadequacy that you and I have. How can I save Israel with my past? How can I save Israel, Lord, when I got 5 kids by 3 different men? Lord, how can I be used when I'm a felon? Lord, how can I make a difference when I got a 3rd grade education? How can I make a difference, God, when I got a physical ailment that people laugh at me? How can I save Israel? Lord, I come from a broke family. He said, my clan is the weakest in Manasseh. Do you understand who I am? I don't have enough. He says, and to make matters worse, my family's weak, and I'm the weakest of the weak. I'm the dumbest of the dumb. Do you know who you're talking to, God? And a lot of us live right there. All excuses why you can't be used by God. Because you're weak and the God that told you to go. I'm uneducated. I'm broke. I got a bad past. I got mental health issues, God. Don't you know I got to take medication? If I don't take medication every day, my behavior be all over the place. They're going to call me crazy. There's no crazy man, no crazy woman. You let your mental issues stop you. Don't you do it. I ain't smart enough. I ain't good looking enough. I don't know enough. Look at verse 16. As I close for the 10th time. It ain't official to the 10th time. The Lord answered, I will be with you. You, with your inadequate thinking self, I will strike down, and you will strike down other Mennonites, leaving none alone. Listen to me. You think you're inadequate, whatever your inadequacy is, God has said he's with you. Lord has said I was with you like I was with Moses when he had to go up against the Pharaoh. I'm with you like I was with Daniel when he was in the lion's den. I'm with you like I was with David when he stood before Goliath. I'm with you like I was with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. Just like I was with your grandma, I'm with you. And guess what? It wasn't Daniel's strength. It was not Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's courage. It was not David's aim. It was God. It was God's strength, not David's aim. It was God who took the fire, heat out of the fire. It was God. God just says, all I need you to do is to get into the fire. All I need you to do is stand before the giant. Whatever your past is, whatever your inadequacy is, I want people to see that I can use a messed up, inadequate person like yourself. That little becomes much when you place it in the master's hand. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. Because he got an inadequate preacher preaching to you today who's building a $5 million facility, saving souls. It ain't me, it's God. I didn't graduate cum laude. I was one of those thank you Lordies. But God took me, picked me up, turned me around. I came from 7 people on welfare, commodity cheese, didn't have a daddy, a mama with a 6th grade education. And it ain't because I'm standing here because I ain't done no bad. I just didn't get caught. But it was God. It was God who is with me. And the Bible says, greater is he that is within me than he that is in the world. All things are possible. I don't care what your deficiency is. I don't care what your hang-up is. I don't care about your past. God is with you. Go. Go in your strength. Go in the strength that you got. Pastor, I don't have no strength. You may have to cry. You may have to limp to the finish line. But God says, just give it all you got. You don't have much. God says, just put it in my hands. Ask me how I know. Because 5,000 women and children were sitting in an open field with no restaurants. And the little boy would save on bread and some sardines. Put it in the hand of God. And little. It ain't about your inadequacies. It's about whose hand. And we're going to see next week Gideon's response. God says, go. Somebody here today. God is calling you to go in his strength. But you feel so inadequate. And one of the things that the church got to stop doing, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, holding people's past against them.